All right, welcome to week 5, day 1. My name is Jonathan Zayan. This week we are focusing on AWS Cloud Practitioner Cert. So because of that, our class format's actually going to be a little bit different. So instead of taking about like an hour and a half or so to lecture, then giving you time for the assignment and doing our 30-minute powwow, I believe the lesson may be a little bit shorter today. Essentially, it's going to be an overview of the cert and then go through some of the key topics. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take a practice exam today. And I'm already pretty sure most of you are saying, why am I going to take a practice exam? I'm not going to pass. And it absolutely does not matter. The intent of the practice exams is kind of like a fail fast method, which means that when you take the test, the expectations you're going to fail it. But while you're taking it, you get to infer what some of these things are. So you're getting that exposure. When you're done, you get to review the test, and then you get to see what you got wrong, why not. And now you're kind of building up that knowledge base and muscle memory. And in fact, this whole week, spoiler alert, the expectation is going to be that you take at least one self-assessment a day. I know some of you have your cert already. The good thing is, still by participating this week, well, not only is it a requirement, but also by participating this week, there's a lot of AWS services that are going to be touched on that are also going to apply to next week when you're studying for your AI practitioner cert. Because remember, it's all on AWS, so there's a lot of overlapping information. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So yeah, here we go. Day 1, Cloud Concepts in AWS Global Infrastructure. This is to prepare you for the AWS Cloud Practitioner as we discussed. Once this page loads, here we go. So the plan's simple. Attend the lectures and understand the vocabulary. The vocabulary is going to be very important. Do the practice exams, fail fast, then improve. Use your own AWS account when possible for hands-on understanding. So this one can be really good as well. So if there's a term that you're like, okay, I'm not quite understanding what this product is, like even if you're reading the words but you don't get the scope, on your own account, just go in and play with it. And that's the best way to learn anything. And then take advantage of free prep tools and guided instructions. So there's going to be a lot of resources this week. I'm going to say this, the intent for this week isn't really going to be us teaching you. Like, we are going to go over stuff with you. But the intent for this week is really going to be everyone here buckling down and using learning strategies and studying strategies to really gain those concepts. All right, so here's a bit of an overview. This is just and I'm not sure where these came from, but I assume that there's validity to them. Essentially, if you're an absolute beginner, you should expect to study about 30 hours, or let's say invest 30 hours into preparing for the exam. If you're experienced, you can actually do it in about 6. And then here it's saying for the average student, you could probably do it in about 24 hours of study time. The cool thing is, these classes are 4 hours long. You're here, what do you have, 4 of them or 5 of them? So, that's 20 hours right there. So pretty much by the end of the week, we're going to, just the class time alone will give you a strong foundation. But that doesn't mean that the class alone is going to get you the cert. Just like everything else, make sure you're doing extra exams and extra studying just to make sure that you guys do pass. Here, the recommendation is that for the time that you do invest inside and outside of class, that you split it evenly. So put time into lectures, guided content, essentially the study material. And then the other 50%, once again, practice exams and reflection. So just taking the test, right? That's not really that whole enchilada. Make sure you're also reviewing those wrong answers. And then here for reflection, there's actually if we go back to this day overview, and this we'll talk about a little bit more later, but here it's like there's a whole little reflection prompts, if you would, right? Like when you're reviewing or even while you're taking the test, kind of, you can ask yourself, hey, what questions or topics feel the most confusing or unfamiliar? And the concept would be to actually write those down. Take note of them. So not just mental note, but like write them on your computer, physically write them, make flashcards, whatever you have to do. Which terms or categories appeared repeatedly? If they're showing up a lot, you can expect them on that test a lot, right? On the actual exam. And then we'll reread these later, so I'm going to go back to the flow we were on. But it's just to kind of give you a concept. All right, on the test, there's going to be 65 total questions. 50 of them are scored and 15 of them are not scored. I believe that they use those for like future tests to kind of gauge, people's fail pass ratios. So you have 90 minutes to complete it. So 65 questions in 90 minutes, that gives you over a minute per question. Someone can do the math if they want to know the exact time. You get 100, you should expect 120 minutes in total. Even though the exam's 90 minutes, you should expect an additional 30 minutes for like check-ins and everything else. And that does include online, because you still have to have your camera on and possibly show ID. It's been a while since I took it, but there's a whole verification process to it. And then your certification, once you pass, because everyone here, I'm certain, will pass, it's going to be valid for 36 months. That's 3 years. And then after that time, you can choose to re-up and take the test again. A key point is there is no penalty for guessing incorrectly. So if you don't know a question when you take the test, it's better to just, guess. Or if you guys know the old adage, when in doubt, Charlie out. I mean, whatever guessing method, works for you. All right. Throughout this, lesson today, there are going to be some questions. I'm going to ask that you don't sneak ahead and cheat in the answer. You would be surprised at what your brain can do or what it can come up with when you don't know an answer. Sometimes that's one of the best things you can do is just, try to think. Even if you have no context, it really helps. So, question, and this is a question for the class without cheating. What is the pricing model used by AWS Cloud Services? And if you don't know, just give me an answer that you think.
If you read this earlier, is that cheating?
If you read it earlier, I'll say wait for the guessers, and then you could tell us, because that way at least you can flex your memory.
Pay as you go.
Who said that?
Cam?
Wait, weren't you the one that read it?
No?
Oh, okay. My bad. It's hard to tell who said what. So yeah, pay as you go. You didn't even have to cheat. I'm proud of you. It is pay as you go. That is an important question. Another question. How many total questions are on the exam? This won't be on the exam, but this is to see if you were paying attention.
Oh, wow. I think it's like 65 or 75 or something like that.
65.
65, yep. There's 50 graded, 15 ungraded, 65. Which AWS support plan offers a technical account manager? And I'd assume you guys don't know about
WA?
which one?
IAM? No. No, never mind. I don't know this.
That's
I
like the
Enterprise?
the highest one. Premium or enterprise, something like that.
Correct, enterprise. Because remember, AWS deals with, from our perspective, it's a lot of cloud, right? It's not even really tangible in that sense, even though it is all real hardware, right, at the end of it. So if they're offering an actual human, a human being, a technical account manager, for sure, it's the highest level. It's that enterprise for those massive companies. And then IM is actually more of role policies. You can think of it, I am a human. That's not what it stands for, but that's a quick way to remember it. I am a human. It's about assigning roles to different users so they can have different accesses of privilege. And Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, so I've looked at going through this cert before, but what is the actual use for this cert other than working for AWS
Oh, that's a
or
good
working for
question.
Amazon, I should say.
Sure. So we're getting these certs. I mean, to be honest, it's not really to work for Amazon. Because in fact, if you just go to Amazon with even probably all their certs, they'll probably be all right, hold on, Doc. Any of those top FANG companies are going to have higher level requirements. The purpose of getting any AWS cert is a way to assure companies that you have domain knowledge within these specific areas. On a stronger or more detailed side, these certs really won't get you hired anywhere. And let me explain. Don't be discouraged. They're nice to haves, and especially at the level that a lot of students are at, these can be tipping points. So essentially, if two people from here with the same exact experience apply for the same company, it's more than fair to say that these certs can be a tipping point to say, hey, this guy, he's just starting out, but he's willing to invest time into learning these AWS services that we utilize in our company. Now, let's say that you go to a company that's not utilizing AWS. They would still say, wow, he still knows the equivalent services, of AWS, but now for whatever cloud provider they're using. So to answer your question, it's not necessarily, this isn't about getting hired at a specific place. It's just used to show extra initiative, show familiarity with cloud services, and then to potentially have a tipping point in one direction or not. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, the only reason I never got the cert to begin with is because what the training I was going through was directly from them, and it was all about. I want to say there was at least two, maybe three modules that all it covered was their pricing,
Mhm.
and I'm very technical, and I could care less what their pricing is. But yeah, it's like unless I'm working for you, what does it matter what your pricing is?
That's a fair point. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. The pricing is something that appears on the test. So I could agree even on the outside if you're like, oh, dude, I don't really want to learn the exact prices of stuff. It's still relevant to the test. Then the second portion. Now let's say in practicality of application, it's not necessarily of saying, hey, I know the prices, right? Like offhand. It's kind of more of a concept of saying, hey, I understand pricing as it correlates to cloud services. That's beneficial because I would say if you're going to a company, right? In fact, one of the disclaimers I was going to give, so this is actually perfect, is that all of these services are really amazing. I was going to talk about this on look for page 3 today. All of these services are amazing. All of the services do something. A lot of the stuff you can do yourself. Like just because you're making an app doesn't mean, oh, I have to cram everything is now an AWS service, right? You can. You should use it when appropriate. But the reason you don't want to do that is because everything costs money, right? You guys know about the bot. It's telling you, hey, close down these instances. Everything costs money. So the point that I'm getting at is if you're going to work for a job, right? Or let's say they have a new product, they want you to lead something. By understanding the pricing, you can also understand when it's appropriate to add it, especially if one of the business objectives is cost optimization. But that's just a perspective. I don't, I didn't make the test, but you know what I mean? That's just my perspective.
Yeah, it makes more sense like that way. But when I first started taking it years ago, I'm just like, okay, I don't care. I'm
Yeah,
just here for the cert.
sure. No, absolutely. And I think whenever you're forced to learn something, especially if you're saying it was multiple lessons, I think having that real world connection is what makes it valuable.
Yeah.
And Kevin, you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that. I was working at a big company, and they were gonna go all into cloud, right? Costs though, as we start running the numbers, and they used to be totally on site, right? Well, not on site, well, internally, right, managed resources, and that made them shift back because of the cost point, right? So knowing it's not just enough to know how to deploy, have an idea of the cost, right? What does it take to run this? How much are we going to be charged when peak hours, right? That's part of business decision, building out a solution, right? That's what they're going to want to know if you're doing a briefing or to like more senior leadership. Hey, how much are we anticipating this going to cost, right? And if you have a high answer, they might say, that's not a good option, right? So I
Yeah,
don't know. So
absolutely, no,
that's how
absolutely,
they
yeah,
shifted.
yeah. And that's exactly like the real world, like implementations, right? It's not just about knowing what things do. It's about knowing what it costs. Because remember, if for a business, that cost is king, and that could be the difference between your idea going through and someone else's, even if yours is like more robust or like, can scale better, whatever. Sometimes price is a tipping point. Cam, you have a question or a statement?
Yeah, kind of tangentially related. The current team that I'm on right now, I'm a TPM, and we took it over from a previous contract. What they decided on was it was an enterprise system, and it was a migration effort from on-prem to cloud. They chose Amazon RDS for this thing, and our team was like, that's so expensive. Like, why don't we just use Postgres? So like we chose Postgres and we saved the government. It was like a 4 year outline. It was like over it was a lot of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's important to know because that could affect how you build whatever solution you need for your customer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, especially that's like just a real world case study that you just provided, you know? That's exactly, why it's important to know, important, especially when you're explaining with implementations. You're going to notice a lot more costs though, once we hit the AI side, and not necessarily even on like the next project, or I mean the next cert, but once we start getting into the projects, those costs are really going to start shooting up. But let's continue here. What is cloud computing? Here's AWS's definition, which is important for the exam, right? It's the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. So that's important to know. So I hope that makes sense to everyone because we've talked a lot about, the VPCs and such. All right, how we got here, the evolution of hosting. This one's kind of cool. I'm just a nerd. I don't know. I think it's cool. So this started out with dedicated servers, right? And here with the little image, it's one physical machine, right? And it's dedicated to a single business, and it would run like just one website, right? So there you go. This whole machine is now just this is your website. It's wild to me. So that's how it started. Then they were like, hey, maybe we can make it better. What if we still have this one physical machine, but we actually ran a bunch of like virtualizations in it, right? And if you guys remember when we were talking about like VMs last week, that's essentially kind of what they were doing. So it's just on this one machine, but now we can run multiple, machines virtualized on this one machine. People were like, yeah, that's way better, right? And then they were like, hey, what about shared hosting, right? Well, they didn't call it that. But now they're saying, what if we took one physical machine, but now other people can actually use this machine, right? We already have the machine with all the virtual machines on it. What are we going to do with all these virtual machines, right? So they just had now other companies joining in to utilize that one machine. And then one day, I assumed there was, a smoke session and, taking place because I think they were kind of like, hey man, how we have one machine, with a bunch of virtual machines? What if instead we had a bunch of physical machines, So anyway, that's where we're at. So if you do remember last week when we talked about networking, even though from our perspective, the customer perspective, it's all cloud. Cloud's really an illusion. It's all physical machines. It's just not ours. And then we're going to talk about the different levels of how much is or isn't the ours in a future lesson today. So like later on today. So here are just key takeaways. A dedicated server was great for control, but very expensive. Price is going to come up, right? And then we're just going to jump to cloud hosting. It's flexible, scalable, secure, and it's the default for modern tech. It's not so common that people are going to just run their own servers and stuff anymore. I will say scalability is one of the things that's going to come up a lot. In fact, already right here. So here's some key cloud concepts that you do need to know. On demand. You access what you need when you need it. That saves a lot of costs. You don't have to pay for everything. So even through the cloud, you're not having access to everything. You don't need every service. An expansion of that, this word elasticity, like elastic, it scales up and down automatically. That's very important because once again, this is going to save money, right? But not only that, there was a time where if you had your own servers and you were saying, hey, I need this server to handle, this much workload, this much traffic, this much whatever. Now you don't need to do that, right? Now, once you're on the cloud, it's going to scale up as you grow. So you're paying for what you need on demand. And then as things grow, it's going to accommodate that growth. And then of course, then now you're paying for more services. Agility. If anyone plays Pokemon, right, look at the background. Agile is just about being quick, right? So it allows you to build and iterate quickly, which is a benefit opposed to building your own servers up. That's why I use the cloud. Pay as you go, no upfront cost or contracts. You notice a lot of these are interrelated because this is, essentially why you would use these cloud services. Global infrastructure, regions, area zones, and edge locations. And then we're going to talk about this today in more depth. Vocabulary that you must know for the exam. Elasticity, I don't know why I can't say that right today. Agility, CapEx versus OpEx, cloud deployment models, which would be public, private, hybrid, cloud service models, and we're going to go into these in more depth. And they're all coming up today. Questions so far? I know we kind of went over a lot and also haven't, but now we're going to just kind of like start getting into everything here a little bit more. Does anyone have a question so far? Is anyone like super lost as to the intention of this week or what to expect on the exam? All right. So let's go ahead and get cracking here. So for lesson 2, let's just see if any of this, actually let me move my zoom over a bit. All right, so you understand the basics. What we're going to talk about are 3 different layers, which is going to be infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. These are important because it also talks about, once again, it's sort of like the depth of how much you own and how much the cloud owns, like how much is actually yours versus the cloud. And later on, I believe within this lesson, we're going to talk about public, private, and hybrid. So the best way I think, to conceptualize this is we're going to start here and then go up. So if you have a software as a service, you manage nothing, right? Super easy, like literally, you manage nothing. It's a fully managed solution that you access via a web app. So here's some examples. If you ever use Google Workspace, they have everything on there. You now have Word and Excel, whatever their equivalents are, and you didn't have to set that up for your company. It's already there. Dropbox, which I don't know if people still use it or if this is old, but essentially it's like a storage, right? You can upload files. It's an online storage system. So now your company can store systems. Some other examples could be like QuickBooks, right? Where now your company doesn't have to keep track of its own expenses, right? You don't need your own Excel sheets and this and that. So software as a service is literally software someone else made that your company can now access as their own business, business solutions, if you would. Now let's go one level deeper. Platform as a service. This is where you manage the code. So it's not a web app that's already made, right? You're creating the code. You're creating your own site or whatever. In fact, an example of this was the demo we had this morning, kind of creating your own platform. So with this, AWS does manage some stuff though, which is the runtime, the scaling, that elasticity, right? The servers, the infrastructure. Some examples would be like AWS Lambda, which are serverless functions. Elastic Beanstalk, for example. Elastic Beanstalk, anything with the word elastic in it, remember, it's like it stretches, so it's scalable. But for this specifically, we're going to be using Google a lot today, and the reason is because you should be using Google a lot. And I know there's AI, but remember AI hallucinates, has a potential to hallucinate. So whenever you're looking up stuff that you need, like 100% accuracy on, still use Google. So AWS Beanstalk, we're not going to in depth, but it easily migrates, deploys, and scales full stack applications on AWS. So finding what these things are, not everything here is going to be like linked or referenced, and you're going to run into stuff on the exam. Even post-exam, you may not have a full explanation. Just know that AWS does a really good job of having everything here for you. All right, so that was just kind of demo that. All right, so platform as a service, you use it when you want to deploy code without managing servers. Then there's one more level, right? Let's say we're like, oh man, that's still not enough. Like we need to have more control over this. Then there's infrastructure as a service. So now you're going to manage the operating system, patches, and applications. AWS would manage the hardware, the virtualization, and the networking. So if you guys remember before, right, we were looking at, the fact that the cloud's actually computer and virtual machines and all that. So they're still going to manage it. So this is still part of the cloud. It's just that now you're managing more. Examples of this would be like Amazon EC2, VPC, which is like your own slice of heaven, if you guys remember that analogy from last week. And then, what do we have here? So when do you use infrastructure as a service? When you need full control of the environment. And that's essentially what this is, right? Because if it's software that you don't own, you're saying, hey, whatever you guys give me, if it works for my business, I'm cool with it. And then you might say, oh, you know what? It kind of works. But in fact, I think I need my own code to kind of really do what I need to do. And then here it's saying, nah, dude, I need control of everything. So it comes down to just once again, business needs. Here's a visual. I'm going to say this. This was already here. And to me, it doesn't really like hit. You know, it doesn't like resonate with my soul. But if you look at this and this is a better visual representation, fantastic. But this is essentially exactly what we just talked about. And then the TLDR on that is that the infrastructure as a service gives you control, but does require setup. There's a lot of configs. The platform as a service is easy to deploy, but it's going to be less flexible. And software as a service is completely hands-off. Do those three concepts make sense to everybody?
Jonathan, I have a question.
Sure.
Our previous week, we did infrastructure as a service, right? Where we had to set up a public subnet, private subnet,
Oh, okay.
employ like EC2s, put in a database for a private, and then the application and that's all infrastructure as code. I'm sorry, infrastructure as a service, right?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Platform as a service, is that where you have the application code and you have the database, but Amazon is taking care of all the EC2, the routing tables and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it.
Okay.
Essentially, you can kind of think of it too, like if you're using like any sort of infrastructure as code components, like even let's say you are utilizing like Terraforms and stuff, then you're kind of like dipping a little bit more into here. You're now dealing with the configs of the servers and very like specific things. Whereas a platform as a service is a little bit more of saying, hey, we're making like a standard app here and we don't really need full control. So like just like a full stack app, you know, and you host it, that would be like your own platform as a service because you're still using their VPCs and such.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And then here, there's 3 different cloud deployment models, and they're very straightforward. It's public, private, and hybrid. So public is where AWS owns and manages the infrastructure. But here you have shared hardware, right? Remember how I said like you have that one machine with all the VMs? If you're on one of those VMs and whoever other company is on one of those VMs, that's because you're on that public cloud. You know, once again, the cloud is that physical, it really is that physical machine. This is the default for most AWS services. For most businesses, there's no real reason that you can't be on there. Now, there's private cloud. This is where you have dedicated hardware. So once again, now it's that one machine with multiple VMs. It doesn't matter how many VMs they have, if it's one or more. It's pretty much like only my company is on that machine. Like no exceptions to that. That's private. You can see this with governments or enterprises with strict requirements. But of course, remember, you know, higher cost. But you do get more control, especially over compliance and security. If it's your own machine, you know, you get to dictate what's happening on there. Then there's hybrid, right? That's exactly what it sounds, sort of like a midway. This combines the on-premise infrastructure with cloud services. It's used during migrations or to meet specific business data residency requirements. Example, a local Oracle database syncing to S3 or RDS in AWS. So it's just kind of the middle ground between saying, hey, multiple companies are on one computer, or saying, hey, only mine. So there's practice questions on all of these. Same thing as earlier. If you don't know the answer, completely cool. Just try to like think through it. This is to help like prep you for when you're taking that self-assessment later. So question 1, which cloud model gives full control over OS and network?
Infrastructure as code? No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, no, you got it, my man. Good job, dude. So option 2, what is a key advantage of SaaS, which is service Wait, service as a software? Software as a software as a service. What's the key advantage of that?
You don't
Fast
have to manage
deployment.
it.
Yeah.
You don't have to manage it. Did I hear another answer?
Fast deployment.
Fast deployment. Those are both correct. Let's see what the answer is here, though. No infrastructure management required. So you guys gave better examples of it, but this is essentially what both of you said, and there's just no management required. Question 3: What type of cloud model allows a business to run on-prem and in AWS?
Hybrid.
Yep. Question 4: Which service model requires least customer responsibility?
Software as a service.
Yep, but you're banging these out. We're gonna have to have someone else guess. Which AWS service is most aligned with platform as a service?
Lambda?
Which AWS service? Lambda is a function. Well, it's serverless
Beanstalk.
functions.
Elastic Beanstalk.
I think it's
Any
both,
other
right?
guesses? The answer? Pew, 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 pew. Someone did say it though. And whoever said it, did you guess? Or did you know it?
Yep.
Cool. And that's why guessing's important. Just kind of like taking what you see and using whatever knowledge you have just to make your best like inference. So not really a guess, right? Infer. So summary. I don't know if we need the summary. Let's just go ahead and skip. You guys know what we just said. So day overview. Now let's go to lesson 3, AWS Global Infrastructure. So the cloud might feel abstract, but remember it's built on physical infrastructure. AWS has organized its global data center networks in a way that provides redundancy, fault tolerance, and low latency. So we'll skip ahead here a little bit. So there's 3 things you need to know for this exam. It's regions, availability zone, and edge locations. If you've noticed, I think every week when we talk about stuff, everything is sort of the same thing, right? It's sort of the same thing, but like a different scale. And there's no difference here with just these terminologies. So AWS region is actually just a geographical region, like literally an area of land in a specific place. It contains a group of physical data centers. Each region is isolated from the other to provide strong fault tolerance. And what this is referring to, which if you keep up with the news, you might be like, wait, what the hell? That seems like the opposite of what happened. But let's say, all right, when you guys go on AWS in the top right corner, you select like US East or US West or whatever. You're selecting these regions. So within that geographical area, there's actually multiple data centers. And the idea is like, what happens if one has an earthquake or if one catches on fire or whatever? It can like kind of switch around within those regions, or at least the other ones are still safe, right? It's not just relying on one data center. These key facts here, they seem like kind of just like, oh, it doesn't really matter if we know it. For the exam, they can show up. So AWS regions, there's over 30 of them throughout the world. Each region includes at least 3 availability zones, which we'll talk about right now. And when you launch a service, you have to choose a region. We've mentioned that. So the region, just again, geographical area, multiple data centers on it. Then availability zone, it's one or more data center within a region. And if you remember, the AWS region has multiple data centers. Each one of those data centers is an availability zone. It's one or more data center within a region, each with independent power, cooling, and networking. Why this matters: if one availability zone fails, the others remain available. So remember, they're a data center within a region. And then here it's just saying many AWS services support the multi availability zone deployment, which is where they can just kind of move it around as they need. Edge location. So we started with the area, has data centers. Data centers are availability zones. So what's an edge location? It's smaller. It's globally distributed endpoints designed to deliver content close to the end user. If there's any gamers here, You know about ping? That's like it's a real thing. The closer you live to a server, the better your ping times are going to be because the actual data, even though, to us it all seems like magic, it actually has to travel from wherever it is to wherever it's going. So the closer it starts to you, the faster you will get it. So essentially with these edge locations, it's kind of about trying to just stretch out a little bit just to get a little bit closer to users. And it says here's that they're used by Amazon CloudFront and by Route 53. And then you guys should be familiar with this from last week. So this improves performance and latency, not durability or failover. Does anyone know what does help with durability or failover? Any guesses? Not one guess from a room full of engineers? All right.
Improve latency and durability and failover
Well,
Additional availability zones.
because they distributed endpoints, right? Because they're distributed over the entire region in itself. It provides fault tolerance for failover.
well, just to
One
clarify
region
the
goes,
question, the edge locations provide performance and latency, but the edge locations do not provide durability or failover, right? So then the question is specifically, what does provide durability or failover?
hmm,
Wouldn't it be AZs?
AZs.
Yes. So the
Okay.
availability zone does provide durability and failover. That's the whole reason they exist. And then the edge location, it's like saying, hey, look, man, we're going to give you better performance and latency, but you can't expect it to also be durable, right? You have to kind of choose here. So here's another visual, which I don't know, it's the same as the words. I don't know how helpful this is, but the regions, an area, availability zone is one or more of the data centers on that area. Edge location is a content delivery network, the endpoints that someone had mentioned. So we're going to go ahead and scroll down a bit. This is, I believe, essentially the same thing. Yeah, this is the same thing, just as a chart, so we'll skip that. Global versus regional services. You'll often see questions asking whether a service is global or regional. This determines the scope and availability. So for regional, it runs inside a single region. Examples EC2, S3, Lambda, RDS. Global are functions across all regions. IAM, Route 53, CloudFront. So if it's global, it's region agnostic, essentially. And otherwise, it's region specific. So if you have to pick that's essentially all you're really doing is saying, hey, I specifically need to use this region. And if it's not asking you, then it means it's global, and that region doesn't matter. Key exam takeaway. Global services don't require you. Oh, well, whatever. I thought that was more important. It's what I just told you guys. Global services don't require you to choose a region. Region services do. This is something that is exam worthy. All right. So remember, here we got 4 questions. If you don't know it, just give me your best guess. Question 1, what is an AWS region?
Geographical area.
Yep. And then here's just the extra bit. Not that your answer is correct, but it also says with multiple area zones, which are actually here. What's the purpose of a availability zone?
durability and fault tolerance.
Damn, that's good. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Question 3, which services use edge locations?
Route 53 CDN.
Any other guesses?
Was that CloudFront?
CloudFront.
CloudFront.
Which one was CloudFront again? That
CloudFront,
was
we
the
didn't,
crack.
with CloudFront, we
Content
didn't actually talk about.
CDN.
Or actually, did you guys
Content
talk about it last
delivery.
week or anything?
I've heard Cloud Trail because that's the one that kind of tracks services, but not CloudFront.
So here
CDN.
it speeds up the delivery of static and dynamic web content. It's essentially
Okay.
just deploys full stack, but here.
Okay.
Securely deliver content with low latency and high transfer speeds. You'll notice that, don't forget this, AWS, Amazon, it's a company. And you'll notice that everything is just marketing, right? Everything is selling you these benefits. And that's kind of what the test is. It's like, hey, Do you know this? Like, do you know our marketing? But also, to
Yeah.
be fair, the marketing is viable to business decisions. Question 4. Is IAM a global or regional service?
Global.
Global.
Any other guesses?
Gonna say neither. Is it a trick question? It's
No,
either that or it's global.
yeah, it's global. Well, just in case, it's just about guessing here. All right. So yeah, so this is let's go back here. And we did this one, yeah? Okay, cool. We're on the last one. Benefits of cloud computing. Cloud computing isn't just a technical shift, it's a business one. Remember, this whole test is about business, about business and marketing, essentially. So AWS defines the cloud's primary value through 4 key benefits: agility, elasticity, flexibility, variable cost. You should notice these ones from earlier. Agility, let me go down because the white's too bright. Agility, quickly experiment, deploy, and iterate without hardware delays. Remember, agile, quick. Elasticity, I don't know why I'm saying this wrong today. Add or remove resources dynamically to meet demand. Demand. It's going to be a great day today. So yeah, so remember, it's elastic, right? It scales. So it adds or removes resources. It doesn't just scale up, it also scales down. It's essentially optimizing for what you need, and that does help with cost. Flexibility uses the tools, architectures, and environments that work for you. Variable cost, pay for what you use, no upfront cost. All right, concepts are central to how AWS positions and so yeah, its platforms and services. So this stuff is going to appear frequently. One of the cool things too is kind of a little pro tip, if you would. If there's an acronym with the letter E in it for AWS, more than likely it's referring to scalability. Cool. So bright. So following graphic summarizes each benefit. Well, once again, we just read this. If you guys want to look at that bright image later, you can refer back to it. All right, key exams, phrasing patterns. These benefits are often embedded into scenario questions. How are common formats to be ready for? Oh, here. Oh, sorry. That white light really messed me up. Let me zoom in a bit. All right. Which AWS benefit helps you quickly test a new business idea? So this is just so you can get familiar with the phrasing of these questions. Here the answer is agility, right? Quickly, agility. What feature allows an application to scale up on Black Friday and back down afterward? Elasticity. Elasticity. All right, whatever. A company wants to move a few apps to the cloud while keeping others on-prem. Which benefits allow this? Flexibility. How does AWS replace capital expenses? Pay as you go. All right, here we have some practice questions so you guys can shout out. Question 1, which benefit allows you to scale based on demand?
Elasticity.
Elasticity.
There you go. Question 2, which benefit allows you to deploy quickly without buying hardware?
Agility.
Yep. A company wants to use multiple cloud and on-prem tools. What benefit does this refer to?
Flexibility.
Yep. What is another name for variable cost?
Pay as you go.
OpEx.
Any other guesses? Because I heard 2. Was there a third one? Pay as you go. And now you understand. Now, so essentially, like all the stuff that we talked about is reoccurring kind of like patterns. It's sort of like foundation of understanding and some reoccurring patterns. And this isn't what you need to be an expert and pass the test, but this is like what you need, I think, to get started. Because if you do remember, right now I'm actually going to have you guys take a practice exam. There's going to be a lot of stuff on here that you don't know. There's going to be a lot of stuff you haven't encountered, and all of that's 100% expected. It's 100% expected. But right now we've kind of already given you a little bit of like pro tips of saying, hey, these words mean this and this means that, because they're reoccurring. So when you take this practice exam, don't worry about passing or failing. Worry about trying to understand the question, seeing what is common sense, what isn't, seeing what is inferable and what isn't. So take it seriously as if your life depended on it. And when you're done, there should be a review on it. Go through those reviews, see which ones you got right, even if you inferred, and see if the reason it's right is the same reason you inferred. All right. Let's say you got it wrong. Cool. What was the reason? So now you're actually learning, because these same concepts are going to be more than likely in the next practice exam and when you actually take that exam. So it's part of a fail fast method. And based off of the instructors that have been here for a while, that this method is highly effective to pass the test, especially within a short time. Here's the post-exam reflection prompt. Like I said, I would recommend, you can do it post-exam, but I would recommend that you also do it more of a during exam, because it's just going to kind of help you keep track, and you're kind of like looking for patterns and stuff that you think might not vibe. So you can keep this open with you and refer to it, and then you can just write your, a Word document, whatever you want. But some of the stuff that you can reflect on is which questions or topics felt the most confusing or unfamiliar. That's going to help you identify where your current gaps are. Which AWS terms or categories appeared repeatedly. That's going to help you understand the patterns of what you should definitely be familiar with and what to expect. Did any questions surprise you with how they were worded? This is now a little bit of like tricky questions. Is something kind of throw you off where based on the wording you thought you knew it? What is one thing you'll revisit or review again before tomorrow's exam? This is good. This is for your own self-improvement, right? And then how would you rate your overall confidence? This one you can do post-exam. And I'm sure today, once again, probably not going to be high. That's all right. But you're going to take this every day for this week. Not the same exam, but you're going to take a different practice exam every day for this week. What time is it? Let me do a quick clock check. 5:30. We started at 4:30, 1 hour, más o menos. These tests, you have up to 90 minutes. What I'm going to recommend that you do is 6, 7. Okay. I'm probably going to call you back at 7:30 my time, which is 2 hours. I'm going to give you 2 hours to take this exam. Do all of those reflective prompts to review your results. And then from there, if you are done, which you really shouldn't be if you're doing it correctly, like even if you finish the test quickly, you shouldn't be. You can re-review them. With those prompts, remember, it also asks like, hey, what didn't you know? Oh, sorry, that's not what we're looking for here. I clicked the wrong one. Yeah, it just kind of says like, hey, like what didn't you know? What's tricky? What's this? What's that? Then you can search that with the rest of the remaining time, right? Try to start closing that gap. And then, yeah, I'm going to pull you back in with 1 hour left. When there's that 1 hour left, we can discuss some of the stuff you guys found. Because if something was tricky to you, maybe it was tricky to someone else. If you recognize the pattern, maybe someone else didn't. And then we're actually going to go through the test together as well. And I'm going to show you a little bit of like, just kind of like self-learning, like how you can use Google and just quickly, acclimate to these things that you don't know. I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording. Wait, where are you guys? Oh, there we go, stop share. Okay, and then we'll stop recording.